Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. In this episode, we're going to dive into the early suits of Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, specifically the Mark II and the Rick Diaz. Both of these have some opening awesome combat scenes, but mean a lot in the whole Universal Century, so we're going to compare them and take a look. The Gundam Mark II gets treated like the golden child of early Zeta, but here's the spicy truth nobody wants to admit. Well, actually, we all know secretly, the Rick Diaz should have been the real star of the show. Even though I like the Mark II, I think it looks amazing, but when it comes to technology moving forward in Universal Century, the Rick Diaz hit it. And why is that? Well, the Mark II was made by the Titans. The Rick Diaz was from Zionic and Zimad folded into Anaheim, giving some interesting technology to work with. The Rick Diaz had better materials, smarter engineering, and in the hands of the AUG, it was the more future-proof machine. So we're going to break down exactly why the Diaz was quietly a superior prototype, and why the Mark II only looked like the winner. Hint, it has the Gundam V-fin. So the Mark II, the Titans build this as an evolution of the RX-78 lineage. It's a testbed for the movable frame, not a polished mobile suit, but it has the V-fin. It's supposed to show off that kind of terror and fear of the Gundam, but in darker colors. The Rick Diaz, Anaheim builds this one directly for the AUG as a spiritual successor to the MS-09 Dom line, but updated for the post-Grips era battlefield. And this is key, the Mark II is a prototype for a new skeleton. The Rick Diaz is a prototype for an actual war machine. The Mark II's movable frame was revolutionary, but it also made the suit fragile. Early movable frames were famously hard to maintain. They were susceptible to shock damage and not great under beam bombardment. Meanwhile, the Rick Diaz flexes Gundarium Gamma armor. This is top-tier armor tech that only elite units had, and the Titans didn't even get it. So in simple terms, the Mark II has a fancy skeleton but flimsy armor, whereas Rick Diaz is a brick house with beam-resistant plating. As for mobility and handling, the Mark II does have a trump card. It moves like an F1 car. The Titans wanted a suit that could outperform the GM line in responsiveness, and Anaheim delivered. It's light, it's agile, and it has a control system that feels like a direct upgrade from the RX-78-2. The Rick Diaz, on the other hand, bigger, heavier, more momentum because it's designed like a Dom. Wide stance, big thrusters, heavy-duty frame, stable firing platform. So in a duel, the Mark II is faster, but the Rick Diaz controls space better. As for weapons and loadout, this is where the Diaz really flexes on the Mark II with a caveat. So the Mark II armaments of Vulcans, beam rifle, bazooka, beam sabers. Basic UC loadout, nothing wrong with it, just standard. But with the Rick Diaz armaments, we get clay bazooka, beam pistols, optional beam rifle, head Vulcans, and the suit's iconic wrist-mounted beam pistols allowing firing in close quarters without losing posture. But the Mark II has the G-Defensor. As an answer to the Rick Diaz, Anaheim had, or AUG had upgraded the Mark II with the G-Defensor on it, which actually makes it into a badass mobile suit anyway. I think it's awesome, but long-term, maintaining that type of optional add-on backpack doesn't make sense, but it makes sense if you think about the direction the Titans go in the future with the advance of Zeta line, where the Titans have those type of movable frames from the Mark II, but with added optional parts on it. As for a real combat record, this is where the Mark II's reputation gets inflated. Camille made the Mark II look great because Camille is Camille. He could have piloted a Jagan and still embarrassed half the Titans. But look at the actual combat record. Mark II loses Roberto, Emma, and Camille trades up to the Zeta ASAP. Rick Diaz loses, Appley gets blindsided, Roberto dies in a Mark II, ironically. Multiple Diaz units survive heavy frontline battles. The Diaz scaled better because it had room to grow. The Mark II becomes outdated immediately the moment mobile suits start sprouting biosensor tech. So the engineering verdict, let's put the facts on the table. The Mark II, first practical movable frame, great handling, perfect stepping stone to Zeta technology, but it had weak armor. It had no Psychomu potential, becomes obsolete the moment transformables appear. As for the Rick Diaz, it's got the Gundarium Gamma armor, flexible weapon loadout, solid thrusters and stability, built for frontline survival, more in line with next-gen grunt philosophy. The Rick Diaz cons is that it's heavy, less acrobatic, development limits because AUG had limited production capacity. So, when we get to Zeta Gundam, we see those Mark IIs, we think, oh, the evolution, the next Gundam, but it's really not. And it's funny because it was built, for the Titans, with the Titans, so it's kind of that bad guy team gets the darker, new Gundam, and the sort of AUG good guys get more of a Xeon-like suit, but built by Anaheim Electronics. It really gets messy and interesting during that era of Gundam, but it is cool to see the legacy of suits between something like the Mark II and the Rick Diaz. Both really cool suits that have cool action scenes at the beginning of Zeta. So let me know what you think. Are you a fan of either suit? A lot of times I say the Mark II is my favorite. I mean, it really just looks badass. It even doesn't Banagher get his like custom Mark II later on. That's pretty awesome. But it seems like though, by the time we get to Zeta and past that, most suits can take out a Mark II. But curious what you think. Is there other cool matchups with the Mark II? I'd be curious to check that out. But anyway, thanks for watching. Shout out to the supporters that make this possible. If that's something you're into, check the links in the description below or check the link for our Discord. We have a lot of fun there. But next time, cool.